Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with loanwithjen.com.
Yeah. Hey.
Back for another show.
I'm back. I know I haven't seen you in a while.
I don't think I'm going to refer to you by your real name. It's just going to be loanwithjen.com.
Yeah.
Loanwithjen.com. Who's that? Loanwithjen.com.
Loanwithjen.com. Yeah. Thank you.
On everywhere social media. Did I ask you this last time? Are you guys doing TikTok yet?
We are. We're about to start doing it more, but we've really been getting into the shorts. Like, we're doing a lot of reels on Instagram. Okay. We have a new company helping us with social media. They're doing a great job, but they're just about to really dive a little bit more into TikTok. So we're doing reels, YouTube shorts, and TikTok.
Yeah. We're the little report I heard the other day was the fastest growing demographic is 45 plus in TikTok.
Oh, wow. 45 plus. Well, they have to keep an eye on their kids.
That's true. Well,
that's why.
And what's interesting is that makes sense because they weren't there before, right? So now TikTok's starting to, it's going to become like Facebook where, oh God, my grandmother's doing a TikTok.
Yeah.
It's going to turn into that, right? And then you have to find the next cool social media.
But a lot of people, like my husband, has now found it. He's a Facebook guy. I won't allow him to go to Instagram. It'd be too much. But he is constantly looking at a TikTok now.
Really? That's funny.
And I think because they're just so short and the attention span of people is, pretty short now.
Yeah.
So I think where shorts come in for real quick.
Yeah, that quick hit.
And quick hit. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's a quick little, okay, cool. So what's going on here? What's going on there?
So I'm going to make some cool ones about investment stuff. I mean, I have a lot of different content that I'm doing, but we'll see.
Well, so I just happened to see, I was listening to MSNBC up in the office, and you have a pulse on the retail real estate market that I think a lot of people don't have. And I heard interesting report. Sales are down this month, according to National Association of Realtors. And it was funny because they claim it's interest rates, but all the business people were like, it's supply, dude. There's not enough houses to sell out there. So it would be interesting to see kind of what you're seeing, because December is supposed to be, quote, slow, and so is January, but I'm not seeing that.
So personally, I'm 65% realtor referred, and the rest is, business people and past clients like you. Mm-hmm. So 65% is a pretty big chunk of realtors, and realtors have the most direct pulse on the market because they've got buyers right now, right, that are looking. So our referrals were down from July to December. My referrals just went down about 25%.
Wow.
And just kind of stayed there. And I just kind of hovered to this, which most of it was kind of less refi people. Yeah. But in January, which actually happens to me every January, but in January, the faucet came back on, and we've got a lot of a very large 25 to 30%, and even more than it's out there. Like lots of people looking to get pre-approved. It happens every January, just because people, I think, after the holidays are like, okay. So it's hard for me to say. Well, I mean, they're not happy about the rates going up almost 1% since the beginning of January. I mean, it's there's a big sticker shock involved. They're like, what? The rates are what? They're not 3 anymore? I'm like, no. But people want to change their situation. I mean, hands down, they don't want to pay money on rent. Rent's going up. And they're like, well, if I'm going to pay an extra few $100s a month, I want it to be on something that I at least own. Mm-hmm. And then I keep thinking of the show that you and I did last year about the data company, Atomic or something?
Yeah, it's Atom Data.
Atom Data, that you think it's 7 or 8 more years. And, I usually probably tell people just several because I don't think people can fathom 7 to 8. Yeah. But I don't see I see low inventory. I don't see things tapering off, really. We still see multiple offers in all price ranges. We have a guy who's buying $1 million house in the kind of the Memorial, Spring Valley, whatever area. and he can't get under a contract for anything, and he's offering like 15% over, and he can't get under contract.
Yeah.
He's getting beat. So, from the higher ranges all the way to the lower ranges, and I'm sure there's pockets of neighborhoods that are cooling down a little bit, but we're still seeing it all over the city.
One day I was just sitting up there in the office just goofing around, and somebody said, well, let's look at days on market by segment. I said, all right, fine. Let's look at the classic 322, great starter home, great home to raise your family in.
What, 275, 300?
Well, here's what I did. I wanted to look at days on market, or actually I wanted to look at inventory below $250,000. So 3.2, so this is a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, great for landlords, great for Airbnb, great for first-time home buyers, great for people that are, let's say, moving from Katy into Westbury, right? I mean, it's like, house is just a great house, right? Mm-hmm. Below $250,000, there's 3 weeks of inventory. Mm-hmm. 3 weeks, right? And price reductions don't start until you get to 10 months. So we're doing I'm doing my big economic forecast next week. I always do it in February because you don't get all the year-end data until typically the end of January. So next week we're doing this event, and now all the data's finally starting to come in, build PowerPoint, doing all that stuff. And I just look at this and I'm like, guys, the big story right here is what happens when prices rise too fast.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely inflation for sure. I mean, payments are going up, rates are going up, payments are going up, prices are going up. So, I mean, yeah, that's never happened to us before in Houston. Mm-mm. So
this is, as Rob put it, this is like Southern California circa 2012. Mm-hmm. He said this is very similar to the Southern California marketplace. So, yeah, I look at these realtors out there and I'm like, God bless you. I don't know how it's going to be tough. I'm calling this summer the bloodbath because its inventory is going to continue to decline. You know what? I think your top performing realtors are going to be fine, but some of these other folks you're going to be fighting for listings, and this is just the start of it.
So actually, I'd like to ask you, as you've bought and sold so many properties, so just put your mind in, you're a seller, mm-hmm. Okay? What should agents know in order to make the offers? What's the first, do it kind of in order of what you think is most important, because it's not always about price.
It's not always about price, but there's so many people that are, and we're selling. We're gonna go to the break here in a minute, and then I want you to bring this back up. We're selling $15 million out of our $30 million portfolio just because there's so much equity there now. So mm-hmm. we're actually now on the sell side and on the buy side at the same time. So
yeah, tell it, when we come back, I want to know when you're looking at contracts, what's going to be important to. Is it option money? Is it number of days option? Is it, other than price? Because like I said, it's not, the highest contract is not always the best.
That's true. And I'll tell you, this will be one that'll shock you. It has a lot to do with what they ask for repairs. And when we get back from the break, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's Jason Bible. I'm here with loanwithjen.com. And we'll be right back.
Hey, but you don't know in the beginning what they're going to ask for repairs. You don't know that.
That's true, but we have a little conversation about it beforehand.
Yeah, because you know what I heard from, and I don't know if you want me to repeat this on the show, but
we're live on Facebook right now.
Oh, cool. Hey, Facebook. So I heard from a big listing agent that he said to me, we just had a little convo, and he said, hey, he said option fee was important to him. Mm-hmm. He says, because he goes, I'm so sick of these investors that are tying up properties they come in, they're cash, they might be the highest bid, mm-hmm. and then they beat us down after inspections for $20,000 to $25,000, mm-hmm. and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
And that was his comment.
Yeah. It's
giving investors a taboo to sellers, the ones that are good listing agents.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
like, we'd rather sell it to a family member.
Right.
To a family that we know is gonna,
actually use it. All right, you ready, Clayton?
Ready to go.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Loanwithjen.com is my guest today.
Hey.
I'm going to get you a tattoo. We're going to get temporary tattoos. Say Loan with Jen.
There you go. Loan with Jen.
Neck tats. I think
purple.
they're
Gotta
in.
be purple. That's my color.
There you go. Okay. Purple neck tats.
Yeah.
So what's important, you had asked before the break, what's important when we're considering offers when we sell?
Yeah.
And I will tell you a big one right now, and that is when we are looking at offers, we will get on the phone with, let's say, the top three. And we'll say, look, we're not doing a bunch of like rehab to this. If it's already rehab, we're not doing a bunch of repairs. And I'll tell you why. It really has nothing to do with price and what the cost is. We can't get them done. So if you guys are following into my personal drama, I bought a house in September of 2020. We have not even gotten done with demo yet because we're sending all of our crews, all of our project managers to finish our apartments and other houses. And we keep acquiring so fast. What's that old saying? Like the cobbler's family is the one that doesn't have any shoes because he's busy at work making shoes all day. So it's kind of like that's kind of the world I'm living in. And it's just, can we get enough bodies and enough material to go fix this thing? And we've had to wait for months in some cases. And maybe it's not even material or labor. City of Houston, and I'll tell you this, people will dog on the inspectors and all that, and I will tell you those guys are doing a phenomenal job. They can't get enough staff. There was a building conference a couple of months ago, and the gentleman that runs the inspection department, the building office, City of Houston, said, guys, look, I'm short 20 full-time employees. You want to get your inspections done, give me some staff, right? So it's not just materials and labor. It's just even at the regulatory level. Yeah, it's like they can't get the bodies out there. So it's not. So when a seller comes back to me and says, well, we're looking for this and we're really going to be looking, and it's like, hey, look, you need to go buy another house. Because now we'll fix safety issues. I'll fix safety issues all day. But if you think this 15-year the house needs a new roof, like that's not going to happen. If you think it needs this and this, like we just can't get it done.
But like, you're the experienced seller, AKA, list. I mean, you super know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, let's say for those realtors out there where, they list houses, but they're not talking necessarily about repairs in the beginning. I mean, I don't hear that conversation until inspections are done. Listing agents aren't bringing anything up.
Yeah.
They don't want to open a can of worms, and they're just kind of crossing their fingers, hoping that nothing is brought up. So other than that, what would be the next thing that you would say that as a seller, like forget the repair stuff, okay, mm-hmm. You're having that conversation up front. But like other than that, what offer would you take more seriously? This is selling retail. This isn't
right.
This isn't wholesaling or anything like that.
This is selling retail. I think the next thing for us is, and this is why we like working with you, is that loan approval a full loan approval, or is it simply something you got from some national lender that has Super Bowl ads that just sends you a pre-approval because you downloaded their app? Mm-hmm. So when we look, and I'm not going to name any of those national companies because I don't know, I could be a spokesperson for them for one day, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I get you.
But the reality is, it's like when you see that pre-approval, you're like, you don't even know your loan officer, mm-hmm. and I know they haven't pulled your taxes and your last couple of pay stubs and verified your bank account information. Mm-hmm. Like I know that's not taking place. So if you want to use a different lender, if you want to use loanwithjen.com or one of these other things, that's great, but we're not even really going to consider that a real offer.
So lender is a big
one for you guys.
Lender is a huge one. And then next in line, would you say that option period and option fee is more attractive than, like if they're willing to tie up a lot of option money, they're a pretty serious buyer and they might not give you a hard time in inspections.
Maybe, but the deal with option money is, especially with retail clients, there's so many ways they can get their option, or there's so many ways for them to get their EMD back. So their option money is kind of is it $1,000, $2,000? I mean, even to us, it's because of our cost to carry and everything else. Like it's not that big a deal. Does that kind of make sense? Mm-hmm. So, really for us, it's that hey, do you have a real lender in case you're not paying cash? I'll tell you one that'll blow you away. And this just happened, and I'm seeing this starting to happen. We buy apartment complexes, right? And we've made some pretty good offers. We had a really great little, 12, 13 unit. We made an offer on this weekend. And we were actually representing somebody in our mastermind to go and buy it. And they said, well, I'm not sure this number. I don't know. It doesn't work. So while we were in the midst of negotiation, they took another offer full cash for the same price. So now we're seeing in the commercial real estate space, full cash offers, just like you would in single family, which is crazy, right? Now, don't get me wrong. They're still going to have their contingencies in there for a phase one assessment and all that other kind of commercial stuff that you don't run into in single family. But for us anyways, the first thing is, hey, we're not doing a bunch of repairs to this property. And if your client needs a brand new, beautiful, pristine house that passes, the most current building code, this isn't it. Even houses we rehab, you rehab a house, we don't bring the whole house up to code. It's not required to do that. We bring up the things that we touch, if you will, up to current code. And then for us, the next piece is the loan. Like, do you really have like a good lender here? This is something I don't know if you've experienced, but when you have a really good lender, it makes the survey and appraisal process much easier. So what we've run into is when we run into these national lenders, they don't really have a relationship. Now, don't get me wrong, no one's supposed to have a real relationship with appraisers, but they do if you use the same ones enough, right? So if you don't have that relationship, you're not going to get that rushed appraisal, right? You're not going to get it in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So right now, it's like as soon as we're putting stuff under contract or they're putting stuff under contract, the immediate question is, all right, when is the appraiser going to be out there? When's the surveyor going to be out there? Well, we're going to call them like 3 days after the auction. I'm like, no, you don't understand. This has to happen right now because otherwise it's going to delay closing for a couple of weeks. So a lot of those conversations we have up front, and those are kind of the big pieces. Now, as far as EMD and option and all that stuff, it's nice to have.
Fluffy anyway.
Yeah, and I understand, there's a lot of big realtors that probably get tired of real estate investors that put in like $100 option fee and tie it up for like 10 days, and that doesn't really work anymore. So, but that's kind of how we've managed it, just because we've run into this issue so many times. And for the maybe less experienced realtor or the brand new realtor, like you said, they kind of cross their fingers and pray like the inspection doesn't come back. But you're going to get burned by that process, to where at some point you're going to say, hey, look, dude, I just want to tell you, there's like 10 properties for sale in this neighborhood. They all go under contract in less than 24 hours. This is the last one. If you want all this. Now, if there's major foundation, plumbing, roof, HVAC, okay, we'll address those. But if it's, you've read these inspection reports. If it's like it needs the safety blow-off valve on the water heater, or the water heater is, it's year 4 into a 6-year water. It's like, look, we're not replacing that, man. Like this is.
So basically then what you're saying, if I can summarize it, is advice to listing agents. Go ahead and bring it up and have the conversation about repairs or no repairs, or listen, this is as is, up front.
Yes. I think here's the way I'm looking at it. This market is moving so fast, and prices are rising so fast. You have no pricing power. Like, this is beyond a seller's market. This is like, sellers can ask what they want. If they want your firstborn, you're going to give it up. Like, it's that crazy, right?
Yeah.
So there's really no pricing parity in the marketplace. So the only thing that we're really negotiating on is how fast can we close this transaction, and how little headache can I get. And for those of you who are brand new listing agents, or maybe less experienced listing agents, your job is to go find more listings. It's not to sit here and negotiate for hours on end, repair stuff. Like that's where I think whenever I have conversations with listing agents, I'm like, the storm is here. And it's about to get worse. And if you're spending all this time with this seller who's a pain in the butt and a buyer who's a pain in the butt about inspections and this, that, like, you are losing a massive amount of money.
It's interesting that you say that. We have a buyer that's buying a new home with a builder. And it's been going on for months and months. And he's very frustrated because, there's been delays. And I'm like, hey, I know you're frustrated, but it's totally normal. so much is not their fault, right? So I think this last batch of his frustration, whatever he was, you did this wrong and blah, blah, you know, I'm sure the list was long. And the builder said, hey, here's your $47,000 earnest money back.
I'm done. All right, we get back from the break. I want to talk more about that. Loanwithjen.com, loanwithjen.com. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
Yeah, I mean, sellers really don't want to put up with nitpicky buyers anymore, which is unfortunate because then quality is going to suffer. You know, like on the new homes and stuff. I wouldn't buy a new home right now.
Well, all right, let's get back to this. You ready to go? Ready to go. Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network, loanwithjen.com. Yeah, the builders are sellers just like anybody else. And, you know, it comes a point where so I have a buddy of mine that's a builder, custom homes, and then we have some experience, obviously, with some of these buyers. And don't get me wrong, there are some legitimate concerns that come up during the inspection process.
Oh,
that's why you have an inspection, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, wow, we didn't even know that was an issue. We'll go address it. However, I can tell you this, I've been on the other side of that problem where it's this buyer that wants, you know, this perfect house, and it's like, look, you need to understand something. There are 50 people behind you that just need a roof over their head. Mm-hmm. So if this is not a structural or safety-related issue, we're really not even interested in having the conversation because the demand is too high. Now, of course, you and I were actually talking before the show. It's like you got to put each other in each other's shoes, right? Mm-hmm. So here's this poor builder. He's running out of inventory. His costs have skyrocketed in the last 24 months. And then he's having to deal with this challenging buyer for the last 6 months over whatever. And it's like, look, here's your money back. I'll just put it back on the market. It's probably worth 50 grand more anyway.
Yeah.
And I can deal with somebody who's not a headache. Mm-hmm. I think one thing buyers need to recognize and buyers agents need to recognize is when you're in a seller's market, you're at the behest of the seller. So I see the emails come back and forth like, hey, buyers agents, by the way, there are more buyers than there are deals available for buyers. There's way more buyers than there are houses. Mm-hmm. So you need to put on your extra happy customer service face, including the emails. We're not sending snippy emails. We're not, nasty voicemails. We're not calling 900 times after hours. Like everybody's got to put their happy customer service face on because the listing agent is king right now. And it's not even the listing agent, it's the sellers that are king. Mm-hmm. And that is not going to, that's not going to stop anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So I think, to go back to your question, which I think was a really good one. Hey, what does your make your offer most attractive? If I were wearing my buyer's agent shoes, I would be extra super customer service focused with that listing agent and the seller. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't be opposed to we get an accepted contract, you send a gift basket over there. Like there has to be a whole nother level here as opposed to treating this business like a transaction-based business because the reality is it's not anymore. Like you should feel like every property you get under contract is a blessing because inventory has collapsed 60% in less than 3 years.
Yeah, the issue, a couple things. One is that's a hard pill to swallow for a buyer. Because they're like, okay, I'm overpaying for this house and I'm going to want what I want. It needs, we got to do repairs or we got to go in and negotiate. And, especially, people want what they want, right? That's a hard mental shift to make. Like, okay, let me just submit to everything that the seller wants. Like, it's a hard...
I think this is what makes the difference between really good buyer's agent and one who's just like trying to get their feet wet is to sit down with that buyer and say, hey, look, you've got to understand what the marketplace is today. The marketplace is today, we are 60%. We've lost 60% of our inventory. And there's more buyers now than there were 3 years ago. So I'm here to represent you, right? I've got a fiduciary duty to you as a buyer. And you can ask for whatever you want. I'm here to represent you, but recognize this, that this market is complete. There is never, and I think you've said this, you've been doing this for a couple of years now.
26, yeah.
26 years now. Loanwithjen.com, by the way.
Thank you.
She was doing TikTok before TikTok was cool.
I don't know about that, but
So I think that conversation is, hey, even if the buyer's agent is not a seasoned veteran like you are, say, hey, look, I work with a lot of really seasoned real estate folks, 20, 30, 40 years experience. No one's seen a market like this. So again, I'm your fiduciary. I will do whatever you ask me to do. However, recognize this. If you have to have this and you have to have this and everything's going to be a line in the sand, you're not going to get a house. And, when you go to I have to overpay, I'm like, well, what's overpaying if everyone in the market is doing it, right?
Yeah, well, and a house is worth whatever people are willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So that's
right.
Like define overpaying.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. One thing I want to ask, when you said the supply has decreased by 60%, do you mean because of the lack of new build that's helping subsidize the market? Is it really represent 60%?
It's like 60%. Yeah. We're like 5 million.
60% new construction?
Yeah. Well, we have zero. Well, there's two things that are happening here. One is there's a couple of things at play. One is not enough new construction. I had to send you, we're going to record the event that we do next week.
Yeah, are you doing a webinar or what are you doing?
No, we'll do it up here. Clayton's going to do it and then cut it all up so it looks like a real TV show.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go over all these numbers. But since 2007, as a result of all the changes in banking law and the CFPB, the CFPB has limited how much state, regional, local banks can lend to developers. That's what's actually causing this problem. We've never had this problem in the history of the United States. So these poor developers can't get money to develop land, so builders can go in and build houses. So we are behind the curve by 10 years in new construction. So new construction is certainly one piece. The second piece is, and I haven't seen anybody quantify this. I may send an email over to Logan at Housing Wire because he's got a lot more data than I do. There is, so we have like 10,000 seniors, I can't remember, a day or a month that are retiring, some ridiculous number, right? Baby boomers are retiring, millennials are moving up. Well, baby boomers are looking around going, all right, so maybe it's time for me to downsize this 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house. The grandkids come over a couple of times a year. We go over there. So maybe it's time for us to downsize. And then they start looking around and go, whoa, a downsize costs me more than this house does now. So I'm not moving. So you've got two sides of this that are locked up. Prices are rising so fast that they don't want to downgrade to a home, even if it's the same price, right? Downgrade to a home, say in a retirement community. While at the same time, we don't have enough new construction to abate some of the pricing pressures on existing supply. So it's this like catch-22 where the whole system is like locked up. It's probably a good way to put it. It's just kind of, it's just kind of locked up, right?
Yeah.
So what eventually happens is more and more people start getting priced out of the marketplace.
Yeah, and you've got this huge demand of, the newer generation is pretty smart about their money. Mm-hmm. And they're like, why am I wasting money on rent?
Yes.
And so they want somewhere to go. And they're like, and that brings up another point is that I have a lot of FHA buyers in the below 300,000. I mean, forget it if they're 190 to 200.
Oh, yeah.
I have some 200,000 people that they're FHA down payment assistance, and they can't get a contract. They can't get a home. What happens to those people? I mean, they deserve to be in a house, right? But what happens?
Oh, I got an idea. When we get back from the break, loanwithjen.com. Loanwithjen.com. Is that the best way for them to contact you, or what?
Yeah,
do you want them to call?
My phone number and email is there. Just check it out.
All right, we'll be back.
Everything is there.
We'll be back here in a minute. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
Oh, I mean, it's such a quagmire.
It's crazy.
It's like, and I feel so bad because, we pre-approve, and then these poor agents that are helping these buyers, they're like, you can only get them approved for 200. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, they can't, they don't want more than a $1,500 payment.
Yeah.
Or they can't qualify for more than that. So there's a lot of people that make 60 to 80,000 and all they can afford is a $200,000 house, $250,000.
So I want to talk about this because every 2 years, it seems like the 40-year mortgage conversation comes back. All right, you ready, Clayton?
Ready to go.
Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here with loanwithjen.com.
Hey.
Loanwithjen.com. We'll know if the branding is working if they don't even know you're. They're just like, I just call Loan with Jen. And they're like,
yeah,
what? That's her name?
I get people that call me from, they're like, oh yeah, I heard you on Mr. Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's working.
Loanwithjen.com. I like it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet. You bet.
Yeah.
So every couple of years we hear this, the 40-year mortgage. So 10-year interest only and then 30-year fixed. I know they've got them in Southern California because it's the only way a lot of people can afford a home. So
The 40 years?
yeah.
But who's doing them? Fannie Mae's not buying those.
Fannie Mae's not buying those. It's like non-QM. It's crazy. I don't know. So you don't do very many do you do any non-QM? You're all
Not really.
traditional. Okay.
I don't even want to. I just stick to my wheelhouse.
Okay.
Conventional.
Yeah.
That's
Just
what I want to do.
You own the barbecue restaurant. All we're doing is making barbecue
I just
here.
want to do barbecue. That's it.
So in the non-QM world, so for those of you who are brand new to the show, there are conforming mortgages and non-conforming mortgages. So conforming mortgages is, what do you think, 90% of the marketplace?
No, I think it's
70%?
in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good majority.
So these
yeah.
are the traditional mortgages, 30-year, 15-year, put 20% down. In some cases,
Or
you do
can
3 to 5%.
Yeah, you can do low down payment. But they're the fixed low the rates that you see online with the low 30-year fixed rates, that's conforming.
That's conforming, right.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now in the non-QM space is the rates are becoming very competitive with QM, which is really interesting. So a lot of folks in our mastermind group have asked, like, Jason, why is that? I said, because there's so much money, it's got to go somewhere.
They want to lend to.
They've got to lend. They've got to lend. Mm-hmm. So story came out this past week. One of the big hedge funds who owns a couple 100,000 houses.
BlackRock?
Yeah, it's BlackRock. I think it was BlackRock. They basically came out and said, hey, now we're going to do rent to own. We're going to do owner finance for our tenants.
Oh.
Money's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So when all these real estate investors and, quote, economists, I'll use that in air quotes, said, Jason, you understand there's going to be a real estate crash when the hedge funds liquidate? I said, no, they're not. They're just going to owner finance everything. And then what they'll do is they'll owner finance, because they've already got all the financials, right? They'll owner finance, and then what they'll do is put them into a conforming traditional mortgage at some point.
Okay, can I tell you a quick rule about that?
Shoot.
Because I know where you're going. So people have asked me, hey, if I rent to own, can I use all that rent that I've been paying towards my down payment?
Yeah.
The answer is no. However, you can only use the portion of the rent that was over the market rent for the area. So let's say the market rent is $1,700 and you've been paying $2,000. You can use the $300 a month
Towards your down payment.
Yeah, except that gets tricky because when the lender a year from now is doing the analysis, we have to have an appraiser do that market rent analysis. But if rents have been rising,
yeah, right.
When are they going to determine what the average market was a year ago?
Right.
So I would suggest that if you are going to do that, go ahead and get the market rent analysis done at the time that you're entering into the lease to purchase, so that it's based on data like right now. That way you could prove to an underwriter later, like, yeah, at the time we were, $300 above the market rent average for the area. So just that's just where my head goes when you were talking about that. I was just like, okay. In fact, that's a new video topic.
Yeah, put that on there.
Hey, I have a pretty big library on YouTube,
yes,
by the way.
Huge.
So
and it's Friday. Is it always Friday? It's Fridays. Wednesdays.
Wednesday and Friday.
Wednesday and Friday.
So it's Loan with Jen also on YouTube, but that's
put that down. Rent to own. I have not seen their program. They just announced, they said, hey, we're going to start doing this.
Okay.
And I'm like,
but how does
okay.
a buyer find a house that BlackRock owns? How would they know?
They wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know.
So like I said, they just announced the program, so I don't.
Yeah, I wonder
don't
how
know.
they're going to get the word out. But this 40-year mortgage thing that you mentioned, I wonder if Fannie Mae, I mean, that would be an initiative for people to qualify for more house.
Yes.
And they've got to do something to support, like the government is working so hard to support the low to moderate income people, but like that could do it. And you know that's the reason why second homes just took a trajectory up, right?
Yeah.
The real reason.
Yeah. And they also said that program ends in April?
Yeah, I can just tell you from a lender standpoint, everything right now that's locking, it's not going to deliver to Fannie Mae till after April. So the lenders have already priced into their pricing. So basically, second homes are now equivalent with investment properties. Yeah. And the reason why, the real nut of it is that they were like, whoever these suits are that are making these decisions said, you know what? Why are we subsidizing the wealthy that can afford a second little vacation, ski, beach home or whatever? We're going to go ahead and add premiums to these pricing, and we're going to use that extra differential that we're making to help us subsidize the low to moderate income.
My prediction is, I'll give you one, this is going to drive folks nuts. I think the GSEs get out of the investment business.
Altogether.
Someone has to have a serious conversation about, hey, there's enough of the private mortgage market out there. We don't have to subsidize landlords. Because the problem now is that 25% of sales are going to investors. And the millennial voting bloc is now the largest voting bloc, and they can't get a house. And who are they competing with? Guys like me.
So maybe then the GSEs just do primary.
They just do primary.
And then second home and investment have to go to these non-QM, which they're
non-QM,
competitive
local
anyway.
Banks. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I just don't see. You've got to think from an election standpoint. This is a midterm, right? You got to think from an election standpoint. You've got this huge voting bloc. They can't buy houses. All they hear about is evil guys like BlackRock buying their home that they want to move into. So then the question is, okay, what is the government going to do? Hey, you know what? We're not going to do investor loans anymore.
Yeah. Who knows?
Which would be really
Who knows?
interesting.
But I think one step in that direction was, again, the uptick on second homes. Because second homes really in the past were priced very similar to primary.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's about 0.5% more. I mean, investment and second homes are pretty much equivocable, only that with a second home, which is like a vacation home, it's not a second home down the street.
It's a vacation house.
That's like the most hilarious call that I get. But people just don't know. They're like, I'm buying a second home. I'm like, oh, okay, where's it located?
At the beach, the
They're
mountain?
like, yeah, no, it's down the street. And I'm like,
okay, yeah, that's not really.
That's not people just don't know the definition.
That's fine, yeah.
But it's still funny when I hear it. But those loans are priced pretty equivocable. But on the second vacation home, you can put 10% down. So that is cool.
Oh, that is nice.
That's nice. And then the investment is 20.
Yeah. Loanwithjen.com. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
LinkedIn.
Where else? YouTube. Oh, of course, YouTube. Loanwithjen.com. Twice a week, Wednesdays and Fridays. I get the Friday email. So I'm always like scanning through your Friday email. I'm like, all right, what happened this week?
Oh, yeah,
okay,
that's an email.
Yeah.
That's my interest rate update.
Loanwithjen.com. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks. Lots of good convo.
Lots of great stuff.
You.
And you got a bunch of notes. So I see a bunch of videos
notes
coming out soon.
Oh, yeah. Videos are on the way. Legacy Mutual Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity lender. The opinions expressed here do not reflect those of Legacy Mutual Mortgage.